Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first kind of official weekly live. And every Monday at 10:30, I'm going to go live and kind of go through some of the things we're going to talk about for the week. We're going to talk about just the things we're going to talk about in the group. So today we're going to talk about what I'm going to call emotional hide and seek. So this is ways that we kind of can avoid emotions if we are feeling uncomfortable. And I want to talk first about why we do that. It's actually a powerful defense mechanism. Sometimes emotions are very painful and we either don't have the coping skills that we need or we cannot deal with the emotion at that time. So our brains have come up with a way to help us cope with the vulnerabilities that might pop up from negative emotion. So the way that we can know the difference between a healthy defense mechanism, a coping mechanism, and an unhealthy one is whether or not we have choice and control. So if you have choice and control over what you are choosing to do, it's typically a healthy way to handle your emotions. So a healthy one could be you have a really stressful day at work, so you go home and you take a bath, or you go home and read a book, or you smell some essential oils, or you're choosing to do something that will help you handle your emotions. An unhealthy one would be where you don't have choice or control. So you have a stressful day at work or at school if you're a teen, and you come home and you snap at your family. You may get a drink or smoke, or maybe you decide to bully somebody online, and could be totally unintentional, but you haven't resolved your emotions, and so you lash out in some way. So it could also be something that's not necessarily unhealthy in and of itself. It could just be that you come home and you spend an hour on social media when you have other things that you wanted to do or could have done that would have been better for your emotional health. So there are some ways that I'm going to talk about 4 ways that we can avoid emotion. One is buffering. So a buffer is something that you put in between yourself and your negative emotion. So it's anything that you do that essentially helps you avoid feeling the feeling. So it could be overeating, it could be shopping, it could be getting on social media, it could be, I don't know, there's a lot of things that people do to buffer. So another one is to blame other people. So when you're experiencing a negative emotion, you might lash out and blame other people for that emotion, even though it is you and you're creating it and it's your reaction. You might blame somebody else for the way that you're feeling. The third one is projecting. So this one is really common, and a lot of times we don't realize that we're doing it. So projecting is when you are experiencing an emotion, but you essentially project that onto somebody else. So if you're a teenager and you have a group of friends and there is a friend in the group that you do not like for some reason, whether you don't click or you're jealous or whatever the reason is, then you might say that that person doesn't like you. So you could go to your friends and say, for some reason, Sarah doesn't like me, but in reality, you're the one who doesn't like Sarah. The fourth one is masking. So when we mask, you hide your true emotions underneath other ones. This is also one that is very common. Sometimes we feel it's not socially acceptable to feel a certain way. So we might say that we feel anxious when in reality we feel rejected or angry. Or we might say that we are happy and that we're fine, but deep down we're really hurt and we're really disappointed. It takes a lot of vulnerability to be open and honest, and sometimes we have certain emotions that we feel are okay to share with other people and other ones that we feel aren't. So next, for just a minute here, I'm going to talk about some of the things that start to happen when we use defense mechanisms incorrectly. So the first one is that we disconnect from the people that matter. So when you choose to hide your emotions and to not share it with other people, then you are running the risk of disconnecting. So people want to feel like you trust them and that you love them and that you're willing to be vulnerable. And when we aren't willing to be vulnerable, it makes it hard to connect with people. The second one is that we become anxious. Becky Hine said, people learn to hold in disturbing emotions such as sadness, anger, or hurt. So as adults, when any of these repressed feelings start to come to the surface, an internal alarm clock goes off that dangerous emotions are about to erupt. Thus, we feel anxious. This was very eye-opening for me. A lot of people suffer from anxiety now, and it was interesting to think about the fact that that anxiety might be a warning that some dangerous, what was it she said? Some dangerous emotions are about to erupt. So stuffing emotions down doesn't get rid of them. When you play the game of emotional hide and seek and you run and hide, your emotions are counting. They still exist. They're not going anywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you finish doing whatever it is that you were doing, whether it's buffering or projecting or whatever it was, the emotions are still there, but they're louder because you didn't listen to them. So if you're starting to notice a lot of anxiety, pay attention and know that there are some emotions that might be about to erupt. Prepare for it, embrace them, allow them, and feel them. And a lot of times the anxiety will go down. 3 is physical symptoms. There's all sorts of evidence that ignoring emotions creates physical symptoms in our bodies. 4, you might find yourself trying to stay constantly busy. So if you find yourself being uncomfortable being alone, a lot of times it's because there are emotions that you have hidden from or are hiding from. And it's important to then recognize that busyness can be a defense mechanism and learn to slow down and really pay attention to your feelings. Number 5 is, this is also very interesting, you take excessive care of other people. So you might get overly involved with your friends' lives if you're a teen or on social media, or you might, as a parent, find yourself just obsessing over what your kids are doing, what your teen is doing, what your neighbors are doing. You might want to just constantly be thinking about other people, because if you're thinking about yourself, sometimes those negative emotions will resurface and they'll need to be dealt with. So on 2 more, 6, you develop false positivity. We talked about this a little bit in the group, so you can look through the group and find those posts. They were really good. And finally, 7, you become obsessed with controlling things. So once again, you hate downtime because you feel uncomfortable. This means that there's a lot of emotions that are hiding under there that you may not have dealt with. I just want to close as a couple of quotes. One is, if we truly want to make others more attuned to our vulnerable feelings, we need to manifest them physically and express them verbally. And finally, this is one of my favorite quotes. It's by Rumi. It says, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thoughts, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each guest has been sent as a guide from beyond." So as we are going to be talking about this all week, I'll share some of this information in the group in posts so that you can think about it, we can discuss it, and we can talk about it. Thanks for joining me today.